Translation. It is rays of the two Brahmastras combined, a great circle of fire, like the sun, covers all outer space, the whole firmament of planets. Drishva, Astra, weapon. Translation. All the population of the three worlds was scorched by the combined heat of the weapons. Everyone was reminded of the Samvartaka fire, which takes place at the time of annihilation.
Sanghatya anannam ubhaya trijasi sarasangvite amritya rodasi khangsha babridhafi atkaman bhak drishta satejasastu sayo srilokan pradhanmat dayyamana praja sarva samvartaka amangsaka. So the heat increased, radiation heat increased. One weapon was released by Aswathama, another by Arjuna to counteract. And the heat was so terrible that Dayyamana Praja Sarva, all the inhabitants of different planets, they felt the great heat produced by two Brahmastra. And Samvartakam amangsaka. The Samvartaka fire is explained in the Shastra that in the Kali Yuga, at the last there will be Kali Yuga. In the Kali Yuga, there will be no rainfall, so everything will dry. Not this Kali Yuga, but at the end of the universal life, there will be great fire all over the universe. That is called Samvartaka. And everything will be ablaze. This fire will take place on account of the heat increase of the sun. It is said that the present temperature of the sun will be increased 12 times. So, naturally, there will be fire. As we know, sometimes there is forest fire. Similarly, the fire will take place and everything will be burned into ashes. Then there will be rain. After heat, we have got experience when the atmosphere is too hot, then the rain falls. Same process. When everything will be burned into ashes, there will be rain, torrents of rain, and it is said, just like the trunk of the elephant, the rainfall will be like that. So everything will be covered with water. That is annihilation. Pralaya payadhijale dhitavanasi vedam. Then there will be pralaya, and by the grace of the Lord, the Vedas will be saved. Kesavadhita meena sarira jaya jagadisha hari. This is the process going on. Bhutta bhutta praliyate. This material world, in this way, sometimes it is manifested and sometimes it is not manifested. The energy is there, but the material world means The energy is sometimes manifested, sometimes not manifested. So we are in this material world. Not only we are changing our body one after another, after some years, that is also according to our different forms of life. In one small insect, it may live for few minutes, some of them for few hours, some of them for few days, and some of them for few months, some of them for few years. And this yearly, we human beings, we live for 100 years. And the demigods, they live for 10,000s of years. But wherever you live, either as insect or as demigod, there is no rescue from the process of janma mrityu jara vyadhi. That you cannot escape. Either you become a small insect or you become as powerful as Lord Brahma. You have to die. There is no escape. Brahma, he has the greatest amount of years to live. And his life is, we have calculation in the Bhagavad Gita that sahasra yuga paryantam arahajat brahmano vidu. Sahasra yugam, one yuga means 43 lakhs of years. Multiply it by 1,000. That is the one daytime duration of Brahma. Arhat means morning to evening. Morning to evening, that is Sahasra Yuga. 1,000 times of 43 lakhs of years. Similarly, night, then day and night becomes one day. Similarly, 1 month, and then 12 months, year, such 100 years. So, there is difference between our 100 years and his 100 years. Similarly, ants, 100 years and my 100 years different. The modern science admits that everything is relative. Relative world. According to the body, according to the time, relative world, not absolute. The absolute world is different when there is no relativity. Everyone is as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is oneness. Not that one has become as powerful as the Supreme Lord. No. Maybe as powerful, still they are individual. They are not amalgamation. That is wrong theory. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that in the past we are all individuals. He says that it is not that in the past we did not exist, and it is not that in the future we shall not exist. We shall exist. Nitta sasatayam na hannate hannamani sarire. So, we are eternal. We existed in the past, we are existing now, and we shall continue to exist. An individual, Krishna says, you, me, and all these soldiers and kings, they are all individual. And they existed as individual in the past. And we are existing now as individuals. And we shall continue to exist as individuals. There are three phases of time, past, present and future. So there is no question of being amalgamated at any time. They remain all as individuals. And this is in the material, either material or spiritual world. The individuality is there. It never ceases. Nitya Yukta Upasat. Here we have got temporary life. Therefore, we cannot be Nitya Yukta. This life will be finished. And the next life, we do not know what kind of life we shall have. It may be human form of life or it may be dog's form of life. We have to change this body. Tatha dehantara prapti. Krishna does not say that a man after death becomes a man. No. There is no guarantee. He says tatha dehantara prapti. There will be change of body. And so far the body is concerned, there are 8,400,000 of different bodies. So any one of them you have to accept. There is no guarantee. Tatha dehantara prapti. So I, as spirit soul, I am individual, existing. I shall continue to exist as individual in this material world, either as human being or as an animal or as demigod, as tree, plants, fish, aquatics, so many. Jalajanavalakkhani sthavara lakhavinsati. This is going on. This is material world. And if we go to the spiritual world, jadgatyana nivartante tadhamam paramam mama. The difference, what is the difference between the spiritual world and the material world? The difference is that if you go to the spiritual world, then you will not return again in this material world. Takta dehang punarjanma naiti. A spiritual life means punarjanma naiti. Punarjanma means this material world. Bhutta praliyat. One janma, then death, again janma, again death. And between this death and birth, or birth and death, there is disease and old age. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha. This is our real problem. So, the modern scientists, they do not know what is real problem. They are thinking advancement. Another point is here that tin lokan pradahan maha and jajamana praja sarva. Praja means living entities. Prajayate, when he takes his birth. So, in the three worlds mean this upper, middle and lower planetary system in this universe. Trilokan. So, everywhere there is praja, there is living entities. Otherwise, how it is said? Trinlokan. It is a foolish theory that there is no life in other planets. a rascal theory. It has no meaning. Trinloka. We have got many evidences. I do not know why these rascal scientists say that there is no life in other planet. Why? The other planet is also made of the Panchabhut, Kiti Aptej Manudbhav. They are not different. Maybe something is very prominent, just like in the sun globe, the fire is prominent. Fire is also one of the 5 elements, Kiti Apteja. That does not mean there is no life. There must be. Otherwise, how Krishna talked with the sun god? Imang vivasati yugam praktavan aham abhayam. And the living entity, nayang dahati pavaka. The living entity is not burned by the fire. It is not dried up, it is not moistened, this is stated. So why there will be no life in the sun globe? There must be. Because na dahati pavaka, fire cannot burn the living being. So there are germs in the fire also, ognipok. So we are being misled by the so-called scientists at the matter. That is not perfect knowledge. The perfect knowledge is in the Vedas. Therefore it is advised, tad vijnanartham, gurumeva vigachet, srotriyam brahmanishtam. You should go to a guru who has complete knowledge from the Shruti. Shruti means Vedas. Acharjamana Purusha Veda. Veda means you have to approach Acharya. He knows everything. Unless he is not followers of the Vedas, Shruti, he is a rascal. What is the use of going there? What you will get by approaching a so-called rascal guru? One who does not know Shruti. Therefore, Srila Rupa Goswami has forbidden, and Sanatana Goswami has forbidden. Avaishnava mukhadgina puta hari katha amritam sravanam na kartavyam. Because sravanam, Shruti, to go to Guru means to hear from him, to inquire from him. Tad vijnanartham sa guru meva vigacche samitmani srotriyam brahmanishtam. You have to approach such guru. And who is that guru? Vaishnava, not any others. Therefore, anyone who is not Vaishnava, you should not approach. It is false knowledge. Knowledge has no value. Sanatana Goswami has strictly forbidden Avaishnava mukhadgina puta hari katha amritam sravanam na kartam. Don't hear. You will be spoiled. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said, Mayavadi bhashya sunile hoy sadbonash. If you hear from a Mayavadi, impersonalist, then your spiritual progress is doomed, finished. No more spiritual progress. Mayavadi bhashya sunile. Mayavadi hoy Krishna aparadhi. The Mayavadi, they are offenders to Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Person, and the Mayavadi wants to make him impersonal. Therefore they are offenders. So what is the use of approaching a guru who is an offender to Krishna. Tarahang disata puran chipami ajasan dijunis. Those who are envious. Krishna is Satchidananda Vigraha, and the Mayavadi is always trying to make him handless, legless, headless, earless, and this less, that less, then what is remaining? Say, zero. Why don't you say zero? No, they are very careful. These Sunnavadi, the Buddhists, they clearly say there is no God. It is zero. Sunnavad. So we can understand their position. And the Mayavadis, they are so dangerous that they will not say the God is zero. They will say, yes, there is God, but he is handless, legless, eyeless, thisless, lessless, that's what is the remaining? Say zero, we can understand. Why you say indirectly zero? Therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has said that Vedana Mania Bodha Hoila Nasti. Nastic means one who does not believe in the statement of the Vedas. He is Nastic, atheist. Just like here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna is person. This is Vedic literature, Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is person, aham. Always he says, aham niyadi devana, manvana bhava madhvakta, madhyaji mang namaskuru, sarvadharman parityaje. He is person. So, the Mayavadi will always try to explain in the impersonal way. Therefore they are offended. Krishna personally present. Why Krishna comes? So that the misunderstanding, whether the absolute truth, God is a person or impersonal, to mitigate this trouble, this misunderstanding, he comes as person. He presents himself, here is I am person. Why do you make me imperson? He is person. Jada jada dharma sagrani bhavati. Why you are taking so much trouble? Bhaktya sapta chedusam klesha adhikatarastesam. Simply you are taking unnecessary trouble. Klesha adhikatar. And if you take to bhakti, directly personal, and you cannot understand God or Krishna by any other means except bhakti. Bhaktamam avijanati javana jaschami tattat. If you want to know absolute truth, God, then you have to take to bhakti. And what does it mean, bhakti? Bhakti means there must be Bhagavan. Otherwise, what is the meaning of bhakti? If I want bhakti means to render service. So, if the master is not there, then where is the question of bhakti and service? It's all bogus. Bhakti means three things. Bhakta, Bhagavan and the service. That is bhakti. They are individual. Bhagavan is individual, Bhakta is individual, and the reciprocation of dealing between two individuals, it is called bhakti. That is bhakti. Bhakti is described in so many places. Just like Rupa Goswami defines bhakti. Anna vilasita sunnam jnana karmadanabritam anukullena krishnanushilanam bhakti ruttama. That is first class bhakti. And bhakti means there is activity. Anukullena, favorably. Krishnanushilanam. to satisfy Krishna. Anusilanam means culture. Culture means there is activity. Bhakti does not mean zero. That is another thing. Zero, nirvana, means make this material activities zero. That hint is given by Shankaracharya. Lord Buddha said that everything is zero, and Shankaracharya gave further improvement that it is not zero. Brahma is fact, Brahma Sattva, not zero. Jagat Mithya, this world is Mithya, zero, not Brahma. Because those who understood this zero philosophy, they are rascals, atheists, they cannot understand more. Therefore, further improvement was given by Shankara, because he was preaching. The whole world became Buddhist, and he wanted to establish Vedic principles. So they have already made zero. So how Sripad Shankaracharya can say, no, it is not zero, it is fact? They will not understand. He said in a different way that zero is this material world, Brahma Sattva, but Brahma is fact. This is zero. Now how the fact is working, that is given by the Vaishnava acharyas, especially Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam, dharma projita koita bhavat. Dharma artha kam moksha. They are all cheating. All cheating. Up to moksha. The aspiration to become one with the Supreme, moksha, and that is koitava, cheating. That is the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. When you understand that the so-called monism, to become one with the Supreme, it is cheating. That is not fact. Because you cannot remain in the zero. That is not possible. We are part and parcel of God. God is Anandamaya. Anandamaya Abhyasa. By nature, God is Anandamaya. So if you are part and parcel of God, how you can be Niranandamaya? You are also Anandamaya. That quality is there. But do you enjoy alone? You sit down in a room alone for 3 hours, you will feel disturbed. Immediately. What to speak of eternally. It is impossible to remain alone. And for want of ananda, you will again fall down in this material world. The impersonalist who thinks that I become one with the Supreme. The one with the Supreme means that is eternity, fact. Sat, Chit, Ananda. Simply by becoming Sat, eternal, you don't get Ananda. That is not possible. Therefore, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavita Bhi Tabi Eva Nija Rupa Taya Kalabhi Goloko Eva Nivasati Akhila Atma Bhuta Govindamadi Purisam Tamam Vajan. So, you have to go to the Anandamaya Jadgatana Nivartante Taktadi Hanga Punarjanmana. You have to approach in that way. Otherwise, if you remain in the material world, this will be the result. Dajjamana prajasadhi. One after another, Dajjamana. You will simply burn into ashes. Therefore, the Vedas say, Asatima Sadgama, don't remain here. Go to Krishna and enjoy with him life. Thank you very much.
Bhaktivedanta Gananjana Shirakaya Chakshurupalitam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravari Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshitarane. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. See another class by Srila Prabhupada. Perhaps there's one thing I quite like when Govinda Prabhu he facilitates. He asks people if they can give a theme or summary of the class. You'll find on if you go on YouTube and there's Prabhupada lectures, it gives in a very, very short summary what this class is about. So of course there's many different themes. There's no particular right answer. But if anyone has any particular themes that they could say, ideally 3 words. Just keep it very short and precise. Then you could share, please.
God is person.
God is person. Yeah, it sums up Prabhupada's entire teaching. Yeah. That's very, very, very true about this class. Yeah, thank you. We are individuals. So God is person, we are person. So our individuality continues in the spiritual world. Yeah. Very key. Anyone else have any other points? Just very, very short summary of the overall class. I think these are the main ones I picked up as well. Also the understanding that only by approaching Guru can we get this knowledge. So one very beautiful thing about Prabhupada's lectures is how he very, very eloquently moves from one topic to the next topic very, very organically. There's an analogy in the Bhagavatam of a caterpillar moving from one leaf to another leaf, and only once it's fully grasped onto the next leaf does it let go of the previous one. And Prabhupada's lectures, I feel they're like that. So I thought we could briefly just go through the summary of the lecture. I will try and make it interactive. So I'll pick on people. If no one is volunteering answers, I will pick on people to just get people to be thinking and turning this nectar. So initially, the verse is dealing with this pastime with the Brahmastras, and Ashwatthama and Arjuna is throwing a Brahmastra to counteract. And it's describing the immense heat, etc., which is similar to the Samvartika clouds at the end of the universe, or this the universal devastation. So then where does Prabhupada go from that initial topic which we have, the initial verse from the Bhagavatam? What topic does Prabhupada then go into next? And how is it linked, if you could? Andrew?
So it goes on to say that whether we're a demigod or a small insect, we will have to face death.
Yeah, basically describing this, he quotes Bhutva Praliyate, that constantly there's things are being created and then being annihilated. Yeah, and then he goes on to describe how all the different species, it doesn't matter where you are, you can be Lord Brahma, you can be an insect, but ultimately death is there. Yeah, he says something funny, perhaps anyone could respond. He says there's between birth and death, what is there? Disease and old age. He said that's it. Doesn't matter where you are. Yeah. This is very nice. And then what's the next topic Prabhupada goes on to, and how does he link it? Yeah, annihilation is sort of covered there. But initially he's talking about this material world, then where does he go on to talk about next? But before he gets there, yes, yeah, that's it exactly. So he starts talking how Lord Brahma lives for 100 years of his time, and we live for 100 years of our time. And he says, material world, everything is relative, but spiritual world, everything is absolute. So you see Prabhupada very graciously moves on to the next topic. So now he's starting to describe about the spiritual world. And he's describing in the spiritual world, of course, that we're not one with Krishna, but we are, he says, as good as Krishna, because we're eternally individuals. So what evidence does Prabhupada quote from the Bhagavad Gita to establish that we are all individuals? Very famous verse. Yeah, he doesn't give the Sanskrit actually. He's just quoted the English.
Says never was a. Is that the one? Never was a time when. He didn't say the full thing. That never was a time when.
Yeah, I didn't exist, nor me. You're all these kings. So speaking to Arjuna, establishing that everyone here, both in the past, in the present, and in the future, we exist as individuals. And then Prabhupada goes on to describe the difference between the material and spiritual worlds. It's a slightly interesting answer he gave. But anyone pick up on Prabhupada said, what is the difference between the material and spiritual worlds? Sorry, let's get
the material world is zero, and the Brahman is a fact.
This is what was described later, the philosophy of Sankaracharya.
Yes.
But actually, this is earlier in the class, Prabhupada describing the difference between the material and the spiritual world is that in the spiritual world, if you go there, you do not come back. This is the difference. In the spiritual world, when we go there, we do not come back. So then Prabhupada goes on to describe how, moving on from there, how we always, in this material world, we're coming back, we're taking on different bodies. And then he's describing how we take on body, we can be anywhere within the universe. Not this foolish theory that only in this particular planet is there life. Yes, because naturally, you see how it's flowing again, we cannot trust the material scientists who are saying this foolish theory. So then what topic does Prabhupada go on to next? So he's established that we cannot trust material scientists to explain this foolish theory that only on this planet is there life. So what topic does Prabhupada go on to next?
I think he mentions about how there is life in the sun. Mm-hmm. Or is it still the same point? I don't. Maybe this.
You can share.
Yeah, he mentions that there is life in the sun because Krishna spoke to Vivishwan, and he also gives some, modern day examples of how bacteria and some things also exist even in fire.
It's so nice. Prabhupada always backs up points he says. This chapter 4 of the Gita, he quotes this many times to establish that Krishna is speaking to the sun god. Therefore, there has to be living entities on the sun. And then what topic does he go on to afterwards? So he established that by just material science and knowledge, we'll come to false conclusions. We'll think there's no life anywhere else. So what topic does he very naturally go into next? Not yet, before Mayavadi. He goes to establish, how do we understand knowledge? So Prabhupada say, how do we understand, where's our source of knowledge? Guru. Yes. Yes. Very nice. So Prabhupada then describe, we have to accept a guru. If we want to get knowledge, we have to accept guru. But there is a qualification for that guru. So Mataji, you could describe what's the qualification for the guru? And why can he not be impersonalist? Wish you go. Yes, what did Prabhupada describe that their philosophy was like?
Excuse me, say it again?
What did Prabhupada describe that their philosophy was like?
Their philosophy was like that there is God, but God is impersonal. And then he very beautifully describes how they would like to minimize God by taking less and less and less. And they're like convincing you there is God, but he has less of this, less of that. So they're shaping their God in their own terms. And Krishna is the supreme one, so if they don't believe in Krishna, they cannot give you any knowledge about the supreme.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Jaya.
Yes. And it's interesting, this Mayavadi philosophy, Prabhupada describes, it's even more dangerous than the Sunyavadis. So the Sunyavadis, Sunya means zero, it refers to the Buddhists. And the Buddhists, they say there's no God. And Prabhupada said this Mayavadi philosophy is even more dangerous than the Buddhists. Anyone can explain why it's more dangerous than the Buddhists?
Because they use the Vedas in their own way and distort it.
Why is that more dangerous?
Because then someone might read the Vedas and they've already understood it through the distorted version. So then it's harder to go back and discover the real meaning of the Vedas.
Yeah, very nice. Anyone else have any other points? Yes, Srinivas?
Well, at least the Buddhists, they openly deny that there is no God. But the Mayavadis they understand Krishna, but they make offenses to Krishna. They deny Krishna as a person.
Yeah.
So,
Prabhupada quotes one verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I can't remember the verse actually, but the Mayavadi is an offender. That they're not just denying Krishna's existence, they're openly against him.
it's like in Eka Chakra, Dai Baladev just went, just now he came back. He was saying, he went with a group of devotees, and the conclusion with the devotees was the Mayavadis have taken over Eka Chakra and they're actually trying to deny Lord Nityananda. They're taking over all the places where Lord Nityananda is pastimes, and they're promoting their own philosophy.
That's Prabhupada's mission, is to defeat these Nirvishesha Sunyavadi. Yes. Is there anything else? But yeah, this is pretty much the entirety of the class. So you can see it's like a beautiful piece of music or some art form where it just propagates an initial theme and then expands it so perfectly. Everything he says is backed up by Shastra. Everything's very relevant for spiritual lives. So yeah, Prabhupada classes are very, very, very nice. So perhaps I'll just open it up. If anyone has any of their own realizations or things they liked from this class or things they wanted to share, then please now.
I had a question. I found it difficult that when Prabhupada's making the statement that there's life on the sun, that he's backing up with the statement of Krishna, and that because Krishna spoke it to the sun god, therefore, there must be life, spoke this knowledge to the sun god, therefore there must be life on the sun, where it should be that we justify the statements of the Bhagavad Gita based off evidence in... I don't know if my question is making sense. Like, I feel like it should be the other way around, that we justify that statement in the Bhagavad Gita based off like evidence that there is life on the sun.
Yes, I mean, it's like if you approach someone of a different religion and they're arguing with you, and they argue based upon the strength of their book, it doesn't hold so much. They're saying, Jesus is the only way or something, because the Bible says that, and you don't follow the Bible, it doesn't have so much of a conviction. But you see, spiritual knowledge is a process of knowing where we can actually find out knowledge. So initially, when we read Bhagavad Gita, we don't read it thinking that there is a sun god. But we read Bhagavad Gita and we can understand that these truths which is telling me, how to live in the mode of goodness. You can experimentally see that. You can see that, okay, if I avoid these certain foods, if I live in a sattvic way, it's got a good benefit in my life. So it's very cause and effect. So it's not particularly controversial. And you can go a step further and you can start to actually understand the Bhagavad Gita is talking about the soul. And so you can understand how, okay, perhaps modern scientists they're not entirely in agreement, but a lot of people, they have understand the body is constantly changing. And this universal, this subjective experience that we're having, even though that our body and our mind are constantly changing, it implies that there's a higher source of consciousness. And so these things slowly come into line with what the Bhagavad Gita is teaching about the soul and about consciousness. Then we can go a step further and we can understand about reincarnation. The Bhagavad Gita is teaching about reincarnation, that what you're thinking of the time of death, etc., determines where you're going. And you look at the whole area of parapsychology, then there's a lot of evidence for reincarnation, for what you're thinking of at the time of death determines where you're going. There's pictures of people thinking of, there's a famous story, someone thinking of a certain lady at the time of death, and he comes back looking like that lady. So slowly, piece by piece, the initial philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita is building up a framework, but simply by that method of trying to justify everything in the Gita, you're not going to get to the stage where you can accept the higher conclusions. But you have to have enough initial faith that this book is actually, everything it's told me so far is correct. Everything it's told me is beneficial for my life. Therefore, let me make that jump to actually accept these higher conclusions they're giving me. And so it's a form of knowledge which is limited to people of faith. You cannot use the argument. If you're in a scientific or some academic institution and you use the argument that Krishna says he spoke the Bhagavad Gita to the sun god, therefore there's living entities in the sun, that argument is not going to stand amongst an academic scientific community. But amongst people who've already accepted the Bhagavad Gita as a text which is there for our spiritual advancement, amongst people then these sort of more deeper essences of it can be shared. Perhaps some other devotees have some other comments on this, because it's quite an important point actually.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, Prabhupada gave an argument in different ways also. He said just like even on this planet, it's not like you get electricity. You have to. There's a person behind running the electricity. So even any country you go, there's a prime minister. So what to say about the sun planet? It's not just fire. There's someone ruling it. Prabhupada gave the argument.
But that argument makes sense for the devotee, but that argument, it doesn't prove that there's a sun god.
No, but Prabhupada logically gave the point that anywhere you go, there's a person behind it. It's not just everything's happening automatically. There's a person behind something which is running, making things happen. So it's not like the sun god. The sun is just a fiery ball. There's someone ruling it.
Mm-hmm.
Any country you go, there's a president behind it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a logical argument.
Krishna, I was just reading something interesting, and there's always two sides to things. You know, you prove something that exists, but then on the other side, you have to prove if it doesn't exist. So I was just reading something interesting, which Prabhupada mentions in one purport. I think it's Srimad Bhagavatam 748. Telescopes and other imperfect instruments of scientists are inadequate for evaluating the upper planetary system. Although such instruments are needed because the vision of the so-called scientists is imperfect, the instruments themselves are also imperfect. Therefore, the upper planets cannot be appraised by imperfect men using imperfect man-made instruments. Direct information received from the Vedic literature, however, is perfect. We therefore cannot accept the statements that there are no opulent residents on planets other than this earth. So you also have to have logic. Our movement is pretty much logical also. If you're gonna say that there is no other living entities, well, you don't even have the tools. Your tools are imperfect also. So then there's two sides of the things also. Yeah, just what to say. Scientifically, that would also sound logically also. Yes.
But the scientists, a good scientist, they would then say, okay, we don't know. So it's not a matter of saying, perhaps some scientists say, no, there's no living entities on the sun, there's no living entities elsewhere. That's false science. That's not a good scientist will say, currently we don't have any evidence. It seems not so likely, but there could be.
But the point would be that you even see Prabhupada mentions in another lecture that even if you were to do an experiment to see if there was other limit, it will take you for a long, long time. So then what Prabhupada says at the end of that point, that one has to accept the Vedas then, ultimately, the authority. Even if you were going to carry out that experiment.
Yeah. Tarunapur?
2 points I would just touch on that sun planet. It's not like we see sun as a physical fire, and of course anything physical grows will be burned there, but mind cannot be burned on the sun planet, or intelligence, what to speak of also. In the same way, these denizens, whatever, they live in a subtle plane of sun. It's not that they have fiery bodies and moving around like made of fire. You see them, you don't see them because they live on a subtle plane. So they are not affected with this physical fire. For them, that level of subtlety, there's normal like here for them. So in that sense, that's a life on other planets. It's not physical. They will be burned, of course, if you can enter. Because we know experience, I mean, I was studying this before, those who can do astral projection and then leave this, some of them will enter the sun and see the things. So the subtle level exists. So this is one point. So if one doesn't accept subtle energy, you will not accept that there is life and sun or anywhere else. The same, like any planet has a subtle realm. It's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam that moon planet is bigger than the sun, about 10, 20 times. This is subtle realm of every planet is a physical realm grows, and this is a subtle realm which is much larger. Anyway, that's another thing. Another thing, I was thinking about the relativity of the shortness of time. That life is short anywhere, indeed. If we take the story of Revati and his father, king, when he was looking for a suitable match for his daughter from the earth, they went to Brahmaloka. There to Lord Brahma found a suitable match for his daughter, Revati. And then Lord Brahma had a performance just for a few minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. And then after that, they approached him and said, what you're talking about? On your planet, billions of years have passed. Everybody has forgotten your existence here, not to speak about. But it's not that to Revati and his father, time was also, they felt that it's billions of years passed. No, for them it was also a few minutes. So in this way, Brahma lives 100 years. He doesn't feel I have billions and trillions of years. He has only 100 years. When you go there, it's 100 years. For all denizens there, it's 100 years, same way. Heavenly planets is not billions of years or thousands of years, it's 100 years. And also if you go lower down with time's passing very quick, for us looks like in a few moments. For them it's also 100 years. So in that way it doesn't matter, it's very short time. Very short time. Brahma is 100 years. He feels like my 100 years are gone. He feels also. So that's when relative time is very short. So Prabhupada mentioned that in Srimad Bhagavatam, very short. And
yeah, thank you, bro. Yeah, I'm reminded of David Attenborough, he was like one famous person who used to do documentaries, David Attenborough. He was asked this question about does he believe in God, and I remember he picked open the top of a termite, I think some termite mound, and all these termites or ants or some insects were in there, and he was peering down at them, and he says they do not have the ability to see upwards. So they cannot even perceive the light that's coming. They cannot perceive me peering down at them, and I can see all their movements. He says, right now I'm like this. I'm like that termite. I've got no idea. I cannot perceive these higher things. So I don't know. So that's a good scientist. Someone who's saying, okay, there's things just beyond what we can. Okay, we best stop here. We're going over time. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki. Tagore Premanande.
Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnava